Hello and welcome to the mill. I am your host, Dusty Crane, and this week I wanted to talk about what I alluded to last week, which was I was talking a little bit about the Wednesday live stream. I was also talking a little bit about other things, but the live stream was the important part because normally if Jamie's going to make some kind of announcement or there's information to really glean from one of those videos, it's kind of early on because it's like at the front of people's mind. It's either the first thing Jamie wants to talk about or it's the first thing that the people that are attending the live chat want to talk about. So it's one of those situations where the information is kind of front loaded, in my opinion, and then it kind of gets like just to the everyday questions, which are fine, except for in the January 1st live video, there was a piece of information that dropped at the 52, just shy of the 52-minute mark, that I could not believe that there wasn't more fuss over. Now, it didn't totally escape people's attention because it did get a follow-up question this week, but without any more hiding or playing around here, let me just go ahead and show you what question was asked and how Jamie responded.
Question from our fall is, are you planning any more expansions to Viticulture? What is your favorite expansion from Tuscany, apart from the new board? I love the structures in Tuscany. Really, really love the structures. And am I planning any more expansions? We're floating around with some ideas, but currently it's an odd situation where there are a lot of designers actually involved in a potential expansion for Viticulture, and we are trying to figure out how to navigate the process of having like 5 designers on a game or on an extension. So probably what will happen is it will end up being more than one expansion. We'll split off into different design teams. So I'm trying to figure that out right now. But potentially, yes, there will be another expansion for Viticulture in the future, maybe even 2 expansions.
Okay. I mean, more Viticulture. Who saw that coming? Maybe we should have seen it coming. But Viticulture is definitely one of those titles that when you talk about Stoneware games, it comes up. I mean, you got Scythe, you got Wingspan, and Viticulture is one of those titles that is always like, well, you should try this. It's number 20 Board Game Geek best overall or something like that. Very highly esteemed game, and I kind of thought we had seen all we were going to see from it. We saw the more visitors and the Rhine Valley, and I thought that was it. And then this question that came out of nowhere, are you doing more Viticulture, resulted in, yeah, we were thinking about it, and we've got 5 designers, including Jamie, and maybe it's too big for one expansion, for it's 2. Yeah, I mean, I was totally shocked to hear that, and then equally kind of shocked that I hadn't heard a lot more about it in the Viticulture group. I would have thought that Facebook group would have blown up with speculation, but maybe they're not pursuing it to this extent that I am here. 5 designers possibly. It didn't, like I said, it didn't escape everyone's notice, and then on January 8th, we got this.
Last week I basically mentioned that someone asked, are we going to put out a Viticulture expansion? Is there anything in the works? And I said that there is brainstorming in the works, a collaboration between multiple designers who have had ideas and who have executed those ideas as fan expansions for Viticulture. And I basically have reached out to all of them and said, hey, let's work together and try to make something cool. With the main focus, one of the big things being that if we make a Viticulture expansion, a new Viticulture expansion, I don't want it to just be another more stuff expansion. I love visitors from Rhine Valley. I love more visitors. They're great expansions, but we don't really need to do another expansion that's just like more visitor cards. So we're looking to put kind of a pretty big twist on Viticulture while still retaining the core aspects of the game. And who knows, it could end up being a completely new game. It could be a sequel to Viticulture. I don't really know, because we have so many ideas bouncing around at this point.
All right, so what do you think about that? I like the idea of not just doing another more stuff expansion, and I like the idea of possibly more than one expansion. I like the idea of, hey, this could actually be a sequel to Viticulture. I think that just kind of sets the expectation of we're not just looking to do more of the same. Like, I think Jamie is actually wanting to if we're going to do something new for Viticulture, let's make it big. Let's make it, something substantial. And so more than just another visitor pack, I guess there. But one thing that also came out in there is that he reached out to people that were doing fan-made expansions, which got me to thinking, I've covered a couple of fan expansions. Let me go ahead and look out in the Viticulture group and the variants on BGG, and let's see if anyone immediately springs to mind. And I found a couple of, I'm going to say I think I have the 4 designers that Jamie's working with just based on, I guess, responses to fan-made variants, and also just by the sheer quality of what's been produced out there. I think the first one is Mahir Shah, and I've talked about Mahir before. He's also done Scythe fan expansions that are really well done. In this case, he did a fan expansion called a Monte del Vino, and it was a module in 3 pieces. There was one that expands on the influence tech track that was introduced in Tuscany, and kind of like as you increase your influence, there's powers or there's some kind of benefit to doing so. The second one was player personalities, and it kind of introduced asymmetric powers, and the third piece that is variable action bonus that changes from game to game. So it's not always like, hey, you go here and you get a coin, or you go here and you get an extra wine card or something like that, or vine card or wine order. But Jamie actually commented on that variant and said that he liked the player personality module. And I think he actually said that if he did do a sequel to Viticulture or an expansion, he would like to include that. So I think Mahir is, in my head, a lock if we're strictly talking fan expansions. The second of those is another one that I covered really early on in the mill, like maybe the 7th episode or something, and that was Stephen St. John's solo campaign for Viticulture. And what this was is, he did thematic challenges, and like the titles of these are like rich and bold or robust, or how you would describe wine flavors, and there was variable difficulties, and so maybe the first 3 games are easier than the standard kind of campaign that comes with Viticulture, and then the second one is maybe, or the second 3, or the second 3 the next grouping would be, kind of on par with what the normal difficulties are, and then all the way up into difficult difficulties, and so a little bit of variable difficulty there. Let's see here. I also made a note that he also was very important to do a sense of progression, and also that he wanted to work within the Automa rules that existed, not like teaching you new stuff. And so Jamie had commented on this one, or actually no, this one was not one that Jamie had commented on, but it was one that I'd covered before and saw a lot of fans of the group enjoyed playing that expansion. So that was Stephen St. John, another one that I've talked about before, and we've seen expansions even inside. So another fan designer who has kind of done the Stonemaier Games thing and done a couple fan expansions across different titles. The third one here is Chris Smith, and he did a fan-made expansion called Portugal. Now this is one I'm not personally super familiar with, but his module or his expansion introduced favor tiles. Got a little tongue-tied there. And what those did was it introduced, they're worth VP themselves just right off the gate. I think a half victory point per one of these cards. But they also had benefits that would make actions you take cheaper, or that you could, like I said, keep for victory points, because if you use them to make something cheaper, then you discard them. So that was what Portugal did. It also introduced a new, obviously you're working in Portugal instead of Tuscany, and another thing that was included there was an expanded 2-season wake-up chart. So you see the wake-up chart and the benefits you give, or you get for it, but there was also, he broke it into seasons. So there was different benefits for when you wake up in, the spring, or early in the spring, or, whether you're waking up early in the fall. But that was one that Jamie also earned a Jamie comment too, and he really liked that play on the Tuscany wake-up chart, or that the play on the wake-up chart, in that you had the 2 seasons, different benefits. So that was pretty cool. Now, the last one is not one that we've seen recently, but also one that I talked about earlier, and I'm going to give that one to Dave Armstrong. Now, if you're not familiar with Dave Armstrong, I've talked about him before, but he's responsible for Viticulture Dice. He's responsible for the Viticulture print and play that I talked about before. Dave is also one of those guys that when I first started the mill, Jamie said, if you want to talk about viticulture, you have any questions about viticulture, talk to Dave. So he really did, push me in the direction of Dave. So I get the impression that Jamie has a lot of respect for his familiarity with the game and also the work that he's done. So I'm going to say that those 4 designers, if he's working with fan-made designers, are Mahir Shah, Stephen St. James, Chris Smith, and Dave Armstrong. And then, of course, who knows Viticulture better than Jamie? That is certainly something that I thought I should bring some attention to, because that has me excited. Now, Viticulture is already a super solid game on its own, as you can tell by, how BGG has rated it, which whatever you say about those ratings, but it's one of those titles that just always comes up when you talk Stonemaier games, and it's a fantastic game. So a sequel or an expansion, it definitely makes me smile, and I think even more so that this was not something that Jamie was planning or is even in a code name yet, but just, someone asked a question, and for whatever reason, Jamie didn't do the no comment line that he does for code names. And whether or not this actually comes to pass or not, I think it's super interesting. And one of the things that I really like about Stonemaier games has always been Jamie's willingness to work with fan creators and kind of help, people that aren't in the industry kind of break into the industry, or it's something that they cared about enough that they went to all this work that it was kind of like a recognition of that effort. And so I really like that. I want to know, let's go ahead and maybe get your name in the running here. What ideas do you have for a fan-made expansion for Viticulture? I mean, what are you hoping would be in either a sequel or an expansion? We obviously have what these guys have done, but on top of all that, we have the original parts that were in Tuscany, or whether it was the cheese making. I know that Dave Armstrong was actually at one point working on a game about chocolates and wine pair. So that's Jamie with his chocolate of the day. I mean, obviously that's a theme that could be of interest to him. So what, I guess, pairs with wine? Are we going to have a fish game, some kind of fancy food game that you would pair with your wines? I don't know, but I would like to hear what you think. That is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.